Khan, your Emperor has chosen you as our envoy to the living lands. That wild frontier suffers from the dream scourge. Find the root of this terrible plague and put an end to it.
He is wrong.
Hey there, it's Cookies, and when Avowed was first revealed at the Xbox Game Showcase in 2020, many assumed it would be Obsidian Entertainment's take on Skyrim. Myself was personally hoping for the natural evolution of what made Fallout New Vegas work so well. Character agency, creativity in a world filled to the brim with dynamic factions, and bugs galore. But instead of a massive open world RPG like Skyrim, Obsidian decided to dial things back a bit with Avowed, creating a more focused experience, which I came to appreciate. There's a level of authenticity to its world building, something that's missing from a lot of RPGs in recent years. Many claim atmospheric storytelling in worlds that don't feel real or lived in. Avowed succeeds in finding this middle ground, with decisions not as expansive as Baldur's Gate, and combat not as asynchronistic as Dishonored 2. But it finds a charm in the world worth investing in, which, at the end of the experience, creates what is justifiably one of the greatest early access titles of all time.
The dream scourge is but a symptom of a deeper, more dangerous rot. Go, tame the chaos that plagues the living lands, so that those who remain standing can shape its future.
They both deceive you. There is more wonder in this world than eyes alone can see. You must open yourself to its mysteries. Tend to its purpose, no matter how wild. And become what the living lands truly needs. Its protector.
Avowed starts by letting players create their character, and as is the norm for RPGs these days, players are given plenty of options. When your RPG creator lets you pimp out your character like this, then you know you've got it made. Players can spend a lot of time tweaking their Avowed character's appearance, but they also have important decisions to make about their backstory. These pre-selected options aren't new for people who like RPGs, but can offer unique scenarios and options, which goes a good distance to cement your place in the world. Check mark here, all good stuff. Once players have their character made, they find themselves in the tutorial dungeon and are taught the basics of Avowed as they move through it. The dungeon outfits players with healing potions, armor, spears, bows, books of spells, and by the end of it, giving all the players the full breadth of what Avowed's combat has to offer, from both a first and third person perspective. The switch between the two at the player's discretion, meaning you can immerse yourself one way or another. Avowed's combat is punchy and fun. Players are able to have 2 weapon sets equipped at a time and can easily swap between them, allowing for more variety in a given combat encounter.
Our team's overarching goal is to empower you with choice. So we developed a flexible combat system that allows you to quickly swap from spellcasting and sharpshooting to melee combat. We want to give you the freedom to mix and match your loadout to fit the way you want to play from moment to moment, uninterrupted. For all battles, you can combine a variety of weapons, attacks, and abilities for tactical advantages against a wide range of enemy types. It's not just hacking and slashing. You're making real-time decisions about when to use your abilities, powerful melee attacks, blocks, parries, and special attacks. To help with the different encounters you will face, We provide customizable loadouts that can be quickly switched during combat. That means you can play however you want.
Counter. Players have to choose what they equip in each hand, which also impacts how they approach every fight. For example, players can choose to have the spellbook equipped in the left and say a pistol or a spear in the right. But then that means no shield, and we've been there before, making blocking of the enemy attacks more difficult. The length of variations on your attacks is expansive, akin to the latter Souls entries like Elden Ring, but the balancing is actually there. In spite of the overbearing level of options to pimp out your character, the devs are weaving an incredible balancing act between organic difficulty and your own character's abilities as you level up in an open-ended world with a dynamic progression system tied to single-player side quests, as well as the main storyline, which packs a punch. It is lengthy, and let's be honest, throughout this journey, you're going to be managing stamina, building stagger bars, and choosing the right tool for each scenario. It's crucial for success, especially against tougher enemies that are going to beat your ass. There's also a stealth element at play, with players able to attack enemies with surprise hits, while hiding in things like tall grass. With all these options at my disposal, I found the combat to be a lot more entertaining than I expected from the trailers, without being overtly accessible, and I think a lot of people are going to come away pleasantly surprised. Avowed does nothing terribly new when it comes to combat, but it does the ordinary extraordinarily well. Plus, Avowed uses this foundation to manifest its strength within the world building. There's a lot more to Obsidian RPGs than fighting. Player choice, it's integral to Obsidian RPGs, and the same holds true here for Avowed. In the tutorial dungeon, there was one interesting scenario where I came across a prisoner. I was given the choice to save them or leave her jailed, and I decided to save her despite the concerns raised by my companion, blah blah blah, we've seen it before. Saving this prisoner seemed like the right move at the time, as going out of my way to find the key to her cell and then bringing her along with me meant that at the end of the dungeon I had extra help in the final boss, and maybe I could get some cool, new nuggets of lore. This is one choice amongst many that has expansive repercussions in clever ways. Without spoiling much here, you are definitely rewarded as a player for thinking outside the box in unconventional ways given scenarios in the game. I think what Obsidian did here, it's spectacular, akin to, say, Pentiment. Something whereas they kinda only teased it in the Outer Worlds. There's this sense of a grander scale world, but in the smaller zones, the decisions you make, they intertwine in ways that make you feel like you're making both a micro adjustment to the storyline, but impacting the world on a macro scale.
Creating an immersive experience like Avowed is anchored in the world we build. Art director Matt Hansen and the team have worked to create a unique, colorful, and dynamic visual style.
From the outset, we knew that we wanted Avowed setting to feel rich, weird, and wonderful. We found inspiration in a wide swath of real-world cultures, helping us create a unique RPG experience. By contrasting the vibrant with the dull, or verdant spaces with sickly ones, we can better deliver complex emotional experiences for our players. The Living Lands is a continent of untamed valleys with widely varied biomes, from luxuriant forests to volcanic wastes, and each of those regions itself is a conflux of storied landscapes. All of the regions have a lot of special things associated with them, but I have a deep place in my heart for Shatterscarp. As you're wandering the wastes of Shatterscarp, you might notice off in the distance a vibrant jewel of color. By transitioning from destitute, muted tones of a wasteland of sand and marching in towards a beautiful oasis, there's the opportunity there for life, for adventure, and even a little danger.
Now, joining me on my adventure outside the tutorial dungeon, it was a great old companion, a fish-like man who has his own personality, goals, ambitions, and helpful abilities. Players can call on companions now for their abilities in fights, for an extra edge over their opponents, akin to the Outer Worlds. and they can also chat with their friends at camp to get their perspective on the events so far and learn more about them. Avowed doesn't have romance options, which may sound a little disappointing, but that doesn't mean players won't still grow attached to companions as they play through the game like my homie Fish Dude. The writing is top-notch, and it stands toe-to-toe with New Vegas.
There are many reasons why that would be a bad idea. I will illuminate 3. First, do not believe that because Daniel is a missionary, he is incapable of or unwilling to defend himself. Second, if you harm Daniel or any of the sorrows or dead horses, I will find you. Make no mistake. God willing, you will not leave this valley. Lastly, waging war against good people is bad for the soul. This may not seem important to you now, but it's the most important thing I've said.
Do with that as you will. So a lot of time is spent on side quests as well as the main one. Now Avowed takes place in the Living Lands as it's dealing with the Dream Scourge Plague. This mysterious plague causes the main character to be hounded by a voice, an otherworldly one, and it infects unlucky citizens and creatures with a strange fungi that makes them crazed a la The Last of Us. The main quest, it feels unique as opposed to optional storylines, and there's a lot of info to digest. A lot of exposition. I did think that some of these conversations were long-winded and that the information could have been delivered in a more interesting or organic way than info dumps with minimal movement from a random NPC you saved, number 418. But what's here still lays the groundwork for an intriguing mystery, as long as you can overlook some Starfield-esque statue conversations. And if you can do that, you're in the money. If you've played New Vegas, you've seen this before, shouldn't be a problem. Now, Avowed does not reinvent the wheel, but as an option on Game Pass, this is another exceptional story crafted by Obsidian through the lens of a semi-open world RPG. Its ideas are intriguing in spite of a long-winded conversation system that would have benefited from more player agency, especially earlier on in the first 2 acts. Its combat feels familiar, but plays smooth to the point that it became a highlight. When your RPG has engaging combat, you have done something right. Now, I have to address the elephant in the room. Yes, there are plenty of bugs at launch. There are some game-breaking ones. You're going to want to save spam quite a little bit, but if you've played these types of RPGs, you've been there before. It's not on the degree of Bethesda, and Obsidian is once again showing their ability to craft unique worlds with just enough player agency to help you feel engaged and that the adventure and choices you make are unique and worthwhile. The world itself, it's a puzzle worth solving here, and this experience is one you can't miss out on. If this is your first Obsidian tale, then you are in for a treat, especially in the later acts. I give Avowed 4 glowing repercussions out of 5.